Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hero Movie Podcast, your greatest source for superhero movie discussion in the multiverse. I'm your host, Adam Portress, and joining me today, he too wishes to one day be a handsome Tokyo boy, Sweet Sean Zakovacs from the internet.
I really do.
And he's too busy playing with his chowder buckets, Bruce Leslie.
I'm a prickly pear and no more needs to be said.
Oh, no, sirree, Bob, it doesn't. And we are on course, everybody. Anime continues on, and it is Bruce's choice this week. Bruce, you have chosen 2016, I believe, is your name.
Yes.
What was kind of the impetus for this choice?
Well, I just wanted to have a whole week where I could go around the house and bet all my kids that the title of the next movie that we're going to cover on HMP is your name. And they said it's not possible that could be correct for all three of us, so they all took the bet, and now they all owe Dad money.
Well, what better way to get your children in line by
I hope you at least made the bet so large that they're now forced into indentured servitude.
Ooh.
Exactly. That's there will be free talent for my shooting schedule this summer.
Ah, very good.
I'll get you kids to clean this pool one way or the other. You remember that podcast that I did that I absolutely put your name in there? Got him. I'm going to scrub the bottom of that bad boy. All right, but so we're going to be covering your name, Bruce's choice for anime here. But before we do that, we do want to say a giant thank you to the people that support us over at patreon.com/HMP. Those awesome people get pre-show, post-show, Dinger Zone. And in this week's Dinger Zone, we talk about all what we're doing next month. So we don't really do that a whole bunch with everything. A lot of times our stuff is kind of going week to week with certain things. And I think there are a couple of things that obviously most people will probably assume that we are covering, and they would be correct in that assumption. However, there's a couple in there that maybe not. So patreon.com/HMP. We really appreciate that. And we got ourselves a new patron at the $1 level. We got Ben S. And I wanted, before I get to Sean for the nickname for Ben S here and everything, this is awesome. Thank you so much, Ben, and to everyone who supports us, because whatever amount that it is, whether it's $1 all the way up to the $20 plus levels, we got people that are all the way up and doing stuff like that. It means a lot. It means a lot. I don't care what level is at. The fact that anyone took time out and said, you know what, I'm going to help support this show, be it, whatever they can afford. And if it's at $1, if it's at $20, whatever it is, we are so thankful that, we have listeners that will, that want more. That want more and want to help this show at the exact same time. So thank you to Ben and all of you folks over at Patreon. Sean, do we have a nickname for Ben?
We sure do. And, Ben, usually when we go into this thing, the new way we do this is that we don't mention your last name. But let me get into it.
For tax purposes.
Also, because, there's enough weird people out there.
Yeah.
But here's the thing.
3 of most of the show.
Ben, you know that you have a very common name. So I'm actually going to use both your first and last name for your nicknaming here. So Ben Stanley, first of all, thank you for joining HMP and everything that comes with that. You get the post show, you get the pre-show, you get the Dinger Zone, but also you get your official HMP nickname. And this week, as is my wont to do, I did some digging on your name, and there are a registered 4 million people with your last name.
Good gravy.
So bringing up your full name, Ben Stanley, not that big a deal.
Adam Portress, you're going to find me in 5 seconds.
Lots of people, exactly. Lots of people named Ben Stanley on this earth. So that said, the most famous Ben currently is a basketball player who plays for Old Dominion. And please take note that I said currently. Now, Ben, I would be an idiot not to make Old Dominion your HMP nickname. It's just so perfect. Think about it. As you walk down the street, people speak about you in hushed tones. There goes Old Dominion. I hear he's stronger than 3 strong men. And another person, well, I heard that Old Dominion once bought a new car and connected his phone to the Bluetooth feature on the first try.
Ooh.
And yet a third person, probably a wretched brigand, says something like, I'd attempt to take his valuables, but he's just so damn charming, that Old Dominion. So welcome to HMP, Ben, and thank you. And your new HMP nickname officially is Old Dominion.
Good old Dominion. Good old Dominion. There. That's
Bravo
what I
on
was
that
working
one.
for. So yeah, thank you to Ben, and again, thank you to everyone who supports us over at patreon.com/HMP. And a lot of those people that support us over at Patreon also have podcasts and stuff for themselves. I want to give a giant shout out this week to the How He Sees It podcast with Steve and Noah, because they did something that I don't even think they planned on, but it was the most kismet thing ever. They put out an episode this week about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and literally that exact same day, Quentin Tarantino announces the death of Leonardo DiCaprio's character from that movie. So,
that's sad.
So we've now had the death of an unofficial character, and the next Video Archives podcast is going to go through the Rick Dalton filmography. And it's going to be a celebration of the man's life and work since he is now in 2023. Rick Dalton has finally died. And they put out their review for how Once Upon a Time in Hollywood on that exact day. And I thought that was pretty awesome.
That's pretty great.
So check out all that stuff, and check out our other folks at the Main Attraction Podcast, All American Spook Show. We've been watching all of those guys. Just appreciate you guys so much. And also, we forgot to mention, we got to vote. We got to vote for next week for anime. Anime keeps on going, and everybody. And boy, oh boy, do we have a slew of 5 things for you. I don't know how anyone's going to vote on, because it's a 5-way tie as far as I'm concerned. Here are your options. Number 1, we have the first 3 episodes of Attack on Titan. Big thing there. I've never seen any of these. That's why, except for the one, but I've never seen any of them. So that's kind of why I wanted to have these for my choice plus the Patreon choice. So you guys are helping with that. The second choice is Spirited Away. We've seen a Miyazaki film earlier this month. I haven't seen that one, and it's one of the most popular ones. So let's throw that back up on the list. And one that I know is very near and dear to our co-host hearts here, but I have yet to see for whatever reason, The Iron Giant. So we're going to throw The Iron Giant on there. Now the next one is a little bit different. I'm not even sure where we'll end up finding it. I'm sure it's probably somewhere, but the Silver Surfer cartoon. I remember that from the 90s. So throw that in there. And one Osmosis Jones, just because number 1, it's fun to say. Number 2, it's available on HBO. Actually, it's not HBO anymore. By the time you're hearing this, it's called Max now for some weird reason. So, but those will be your things to vote on.
Place where Screech worked?
I think, yeah, the Max. It's different. This is no article. Just get it right. Don't get sued by Mark Paul Gossler, whoever owns the rights to all that stuff. So patreon.com/HMP.
I hope it's him.
Vote on one of those things.
How great would that be if Zach owns the rights to Saved by the Bell?
He was so good at being that character that he cons them out of the rights to their own show.
Man.
What if it's some kind of like Jack Nicholson in that Batman movie type contract, and it's really Miss Bliss who owns everything? Haley Mills got it all.
Haley Mills is like...
She was the star that first season, so she could have gotten like 80 points of the gross.
She was like number 1 on the call sheet there and everything, and now they were just like,
I want to see a behind the scenes documentary of like Mario Lopez talking about what a bitch that Haley Mills is for keeping all the money.
She's awful.
It's like how Tracy Ullman takes full credit for The Simpsons,
yeah.
Even though she hated it every minute of it that it was on her show.
But I made it. Oh, and if you can't support us over at patreon.com/HMP, why don't you drop over to the iTunes there, give us a 5-star review, a.k.a. Humdinger.
Humdinger.
And I've got one of them. I've got one. It's been too long, but my word, we finally got another review. Matt from Kansas, that's his name, but his username is PaleHorse76. It's 5 stars, and it's entitled Like Talking with Friends. Now I figured this out. I wanted to drop this 5-star. I'm in my mid-40s, and I feel this show is like talking with my buddies on topics we enjoy and remembering how childhood in the 80s and early 90s was so difficult for nerds. Love this show and look forward to every week. Keep up the good work. That's from Matt from Kansas. 5-star review, a.k.a. Humdinger.
Humdinger.
And we need more of those, man. And so we appreciate Matt and all of you fine folks. Patreon.com/HMP, or just review us, man. We appreciate it. All right, here is we're getting into Your Name from 2016. Here is the IMDb plot line for Your Name. As we know, IMDb always 100% correct in everything they say and or do. 2 teenagers share a profound magical connection. Upon discovering they are swapping bodies, things manage to become even more complicated when the boy and girl decide to meet in person. This is written by I'm going to screw it all up, but here we go.
Man,
Makoto Shinkari and Clark Chang directed by Makoto Shinkai. You know what time it is.
It's time for Bruce's Comic Book Connection.
All right, it was Bruce's choice, so I imagine this comic book connection's got to be banging.
Well, there's no comic book that inspired this particular film because it was an original story by the writer and director. And this story really came to mind for me. I kind of joked about it at the top of the show because I was saving it for this section since there's not a comic book connection. But Suzume is a movie that came out just, I don't know, maybe a couple months ago from the same writer-director. And I really enjoyed that. And it had a natural disaster theme that ran through it, much like what we see here. And it has some supernatural elements. So I really enjoyed Suzume. So it was no questions about it. I was going to recommend this as my entry into this month's anime. And then it was also kind of reinforced by friend and listener Matthew Vandiver, who also was really hoping we would cover this one this year. So here we are. That's it. And that's the closest I have to a comic book connection for this wonderful animated film that is an original story.
Fair enough. Well, that wasn't enough. Let me sell everybody on this Japanese version of Freaky Friday because this sucker's got everything. We got things falling from the heavens. Someone decided to animate a full-on Herman Miller Aeron chair because clearly they loved it. Yep, it's going to be that kind of detail on this thing. We got anime food porn, big city structure, small town living, embarrassing public performance, the oddest and funniest line in the movie, "Make me a handsome Tokyo boy." Ask and you shall receive. We got chowder bucket fondlings, a meeting with one-eyed Willie, restaurant work that's fairly accurate, journaling and bro code, piggybacking grandma, the most positive way you've ever heard someone exclaim, "The Nether World!" Almost sounds fun, doesn't it? Tamayaki ramen over tonkatsu ramen. Forget time travel. That's the fantasy. Accurate iPhone of the time. A little too accurate, if you ask me. We got cave spelunking, a 2001 Space Odyssey trip, traveling around the world only to touch fingers with a space ghost. Not the space ghost, but a space ghost. I'm not exactly sure what happened here. If this movie was in America, though, it'd probably be over in 5 minutes. This movie's got everything.
They're making a live action version for Paramount Plus.
No shock there. They're like, we're going to what's one of them anime things that people like? We're going to take that, we're going to make it real, and it's going to suck. Let's do it.
We can't make Robotech. Let's make your name.
The kids love that anime.
Big fans.
Let's get the one where they just bully a deaf girl for 3 hours that Bruce likes. Let's make that one.
Well, I
gotta tell you, when you came at us hard last week with your name, and you were like, "Boy, if you thought that the thing I picked last year, no, what you picked last year was like wrist slitting." Like the saddest thing ever.
I was waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Yeah.
Well, I kept you on your toes. I did want to spoil it for you, so I wanted you to think. Well, I don't want to get too far in it because we will have absolute spoilers. But if this movie had ended at a certain point, it would have been extremely dark. So I wanted you to question if it was going to end there or not. I didn't want to spoil it for you.
All right, well, let's get into it.
Well, you know, the thing I want to say about when the movie first starts is just out of context. We see meteors, and we see these meteors descend through what I thought were like the most beautifully animated clouds.
Yeah.
I mean, we're like 30 seconds in, and I'm already really realizing I'm settling in for a good time. So what did you guys think you were in for? Because I think just even the animation moving through the clouds set some expectations for me. How about you?
Can I start, Adam?
Please.
Do you mind? So it set my expectations too high.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because, I mean, that scene is so well animated and it's so beautiful and it's out of context that when you cut to, a couple of kids, it's like, well, okay. And, like I love that opening scene. I think is lovely. And also, I mean, seeing the Toho at the top of it. I mean, come on.
Oh, that
man,
first
it's
of
like
all,
the most Japanese thing ever.
Yeah, that's so
it
cool.
felt like comfort food right at the top.
It
You were
really
just like,
did, man. I was expecting Godzilla to start tromping through. So, like, I will tell you, like, the thing about this movie, without getting into spoilers, is that, it's very boring until you get to the twister. And it takes a long time to get there. They spend a whole lot of time like getting to the point where you're like, where it's like like you're smarter than the characters in the movie because you know what the premise is before you watch the thing.
Right.
And so, like that doesn't suit it very well. That like, yeah, we get it. Okay. We get the premise to this, but I understand if you're watching this cold, like it's like, oh, I don't know what's happening. Like I understand that, but because we already know, it takes a very long time to get to the part where you're like, oh, okay, well, this is pretty cool.
But it doesn't take that long though to get to the initial conceit. But the thing is, it goes 3 conceits deep before you're done.
Yes.
So that's because what we do see is this animated intro. Like we get to meet our principal characters. We've got a country girl and a city boy, and I think we should know where this is going. It's going to be some kind of thing that intertwines their different points of view. Country mouse, city mouse. But we get an animated intro, and I just want to say, following this up, comparing it to the style we saw in Totoro, can you feel the evolution in animated intros?
Oh my Lord, man. Yeah. I mean, it's really lovely, and it's really well animated too. Like that's the other part to this, is that no expense was spared. And it's just really wonderful to see hand-drawn animation, although I don't believe that all of this is hand-drawn.
I watched
very
this
little hand-drawn here, but they love to capture the hand-drawn aesthetic.
Yeah. I watched this and I was just like, and I agree. There's so many things of it. It is a very beautiful movie. It's very well conceived and everything, and just so much detail in just every single place.
Yeah.
That said, at the same time too, though, 2016, I'm looking at this and like, while I respect what I'm seeing on screen, the level of respect between like this and say My Neighbor Totoro is like way different, because it's like I'm looking at it, I'm like, yeah, it looks good, but you've also got the benefit of, we'll call it 2015 computers at that point. So I'm
but that's also really unfair, Adam,
it's a little.
To compare something to a Miyazaki movie. I mean, the most creative man in the world versus somebody who's just good at their job.
I meant more from from really just more of a detail perspective and an animation perspective, not necessarily the story itself as a whole.
I feel like when my wife was in art school looking at her stuff and saying, well, it's no Da Vinci, but
exactly.
I give it a B.
Exactly.
But anyway, this is a movie that I'll recommend to people, maybe to help them get into anime. Like maybe if people have some preconceived notions, but I do warn them. I do warn them, don't hit pause at the wrong moment, because man, it wastes no time having a girl wake up in a panic and then she kind of like fondles and leers at her own buckets of chowder. And that happens real early in the movie, and that's like a notorious moment that people kind of laugh at.
But at the same time,
saying,
too,
this
though,
is a different kind of movie.
Let's be
and
honest.
Then boom, that hits.
Let's be honest. I mean, you're a young teenage boy and you get zapped into the body of a girl. It's going to be the first thing you do.
Absolutely.
It wouldn't even be sexual. It'd be like having two little stress balls. And I feel a lot of stress when I was a teenager.
You're like, what is this?
I'd be squishing those suckers all the time.
I got to be checking this out here. The unfettered access. What are you talking about? Like, 14-year-old ain't got any access to that sort of stuff. So he's just like, what's going on?
the little sister, though, man, the little sister is great, but I get real confused about the timeline when the little sister's introduced and they leave the house, and it's like, okay, I think this movie is going to be a Freaky Friday movie, right? Yeah. But then she's leaving the house and it's clearly not Freaky Friday anymore. And I'm thinking, wait, are we going back to before I didn't know at the time that this was going to be a transient phenomenon. So I got a little confused there. Did you guys kind of catch on right away that it was transient, or did you think it was timeline stuff?
It took me about half the film to realize what the hell was going on.
No, when she starts messing with her phone, that's when I'm like, oh, okay. Like, I didn't realize that it was every couple of days until she starts messing with her phone. And then I was like, oh, okay. And what's that? Like 10 minutes, 20 minutes into it.
And that's when I first started thinking, is this a transient phenomenon? And I also started thinking, pretty early on, could this be a bit of a time displacement also? But then they both have the cell phone. So then I just kind of threw that away, out of hand. I'm like, no, they both seem to have the same generation of cell phones. So I'm glad that I threw that away for the way that the story plays out, because I didn't consider some other possibilities that turns out the movie did consider.
Just like The Sixth Sense.
And no, I'd say that this is a little different than that. But anyway, there's a big election.
Oh, would you say that's a little bit different?
When did Bruce Willis show up in this movie?
Oh, I forgot. I watched the dub. You guys might have watched subtitles.
Oh,
You
it's
didn't get
different.
the Bruce Willis cut.
Ah, shucks.
Bruce Willis is the girl in the version I watch.
Hey, I really like you when you're, I got a ribbon. You want a ribbon? Huh? That's a
Hey, if you guys, we're gonna need to take a break so I can play this harmonica and I could be Bruno again.
All you have to do with Bruce Willis, I've just realized it just kind of sound like you're a little tired.
Yeah,
You know what?
It's just like, hey,
I think that might have been because he was
just
a little
kinda
tired.
I don't really know. I don't want to
It's
do it.
just like,
He's tired and he doesn't want to do it. That's
golden wine cooler.
man, that's so weird, man. That's literally where I was gonna go. That's so weird.
the Seagram's golden wine cooler.
Yes, yeah.
Awesome, man. I like it when we agree on something.
Those Seagram's commercials. It was like I can remember my dad like just thinking he was just the coolest guy in the world.
I had the cassette tape of Bruno.
The Return of Bruno.
Yes, I had that cassette tape.
Wow.
That's a collector's item.
It wasn't all that great.
What?
What?
That's
That
shocking.
doesn't sound like Bruce Willis.
That's not the Bruno I know.
No, definitely not.
Okay, so there's-
Are you a bigger fan of Bruno's original stuff?
Yeah, I liked him before he returned. I
Stop
liked that period
playing
when he
the
was gone,
covers!
the lost Bruno tapes.
Mhm.
So there's a big election in town, and this is significant because we find out that our main female character that we're following is the mayor's daughter, and they also use this big election to kind of educate us a bit about the family history and how like the dad represents turning from religion to politics. And this is a moment where I feel like if I were from Japan, or maybe if I just understood Japanese history and culture a little bit better, that I would be able to see some real metaphor going on here. You know what I mean? Like him turning away from the Shinto religion to go. I'm sure that represents something larger.
Yeah, there were a
that's
couple of
probably lost
cultural
on me.
moments in this movie where I was kind of like, well, I'm sure if I was Japanese, that would make a little bit more sense to me. But
Yeah.
But at the same time too, I just kind of go, that's probably a thing for them, and not, I roll past it. I don't sleep on it too hard.
And, America, here living in the United States of America, our nation's been around for about 300 years or something. I lost count around 1776, but anyway. We don't necessarily have the same idea of like turning away from this traditional way of life to a new government because our government's kind of, been screwed from the beginning. But here I can see maybe in Japan, this does represent like going away from the Meiji Restoration and then going into a more Western type.
And you
government.
also have to
I don't know,
remember
but I
that
think it represents something.
that it's a country that was, around before, your Industrial Revolution and stuff like
Exactly.
that. So it's very, very different that way, I think.
I mean, it's a country where the same family may have been living in the same place for 1,200 years, which is
Right.
cool.
Yeah.
My house is only 1,100 years old, so I couldn't imagine.
I know so little about Japanese culture also that when it comes to things like this, I'll just believe it because I don't know any better.
Yeah, anime could, honest to God, tell us a lot of stuff about Japanese culture that is absolutely wrong, and we would take it
we
as
would just go
gospel.
with it.
I
We'd
would
be
not
like,
have
yeah,
any idea.
that sounds
Well,
about right.
talking about
I would
2 points-
need Sean Connery to explain it to me.
That's a noon Godzilla attack. It always happens.
Well, so here's the thing, though, is we get to continue more into that, and we do see that even within the characters, the Japanese characters in the show, there's a little digression on how they feel about things because we have this beautifully animated dance ritual that ends with chewing up rice and spitting your chyme, which is what you call the mixture of chewed food and spit. You spit your chyme into a little thing to turn it into sake for ghosts, which, you know what? I got no problem with that being ghost sake. But there will come a point in the movie where it ceases to be purely ghost sake, and then I had trouble continuing to watch. And I'm not easily grossed out, you know that, Sean. But we get the little sister, who's like the only one who realizes this is some creepy stuff.
Yeah.
And she's like, she's telling her big sister if she needs to make money, she should start a business making this sake and sell videos and pictures. And and then she says, I can't do that because there's like liquor laws. And the kid's sister's like, really? That's the part you have a problem with? Like the little sister knows you're not selling sake, you're selling perversion.
Yeah.
Like, the little sister's the only one who's making the joke that every middle school boy who watches some girl chew up rice and spit it out is going to make,
Yeah.
and it's just hilarious how nobody else is the voice of reason. But we get like the little sister saying, hey guys, we know what you're thinking.
Little
And it is
sister's
kinda
the most
gross.
real character in this show. 100%.
And then we get sort of like we got to see City Mouse in the country. Now we get to see Country Mouse in the city. And not to be outdone with the chowder bucket scene, we do get a little what I like to call wiener discovery.
Mhm.
And then
Is that the code word you've come up with?
Yeah, that way, like if we're in public and we talk about it, nobody will know what we
No
mean.
one will know.
When we say like that teenager had some wiener discovery going on, it'll sound perfectly healthy, like they were going to look for the best type of hot dog for the cookout.
Exactly.
Why'd you go with hot dog there?
Because the wiener's a hot dog.
We said too many.
Frankfurter.
Yeah, but you dodged the word wiener for some weird
Oh,
reason.
weenie.
After having
I'm sorry, weenie.
said wiener at least 8 times.
Wiener. It's short for Vienna, Austria.
What's the next part?
Okay, so anyway, she's kind of overwhelmed by the city, but she loves the city. Finally gets to go to a cafe rather than a vending machine and a bench. But then to show that it's not all fun and games, suddenly she has to work in the food industry. And you said this seemed pretty accurate to you, Adam?
Yeah, people screaming at you. And like, honestly, if you walked in and you knew nothing about this is like, again, beyond like switching bodies and, time travel, this is the part that seemed the most impossible to me, is that you would walk in and know zero about your job and then just do like when he goes, this needs to go to table number 4. She don't know where table number 4 is at. She'd just be like, drop it. And they do at least at one point be like, this isn't what we ordered, which is fine. But
here's what you don't understand, Adam. This is a Japanese restaurant.
Oh, they have the numbers on the table?
No, they just do things differently every day so that whether you're new or old, you're still lost.
Keep people on their toes.
So are you going to get to the point with the knife?
That's what I was going to ask you guys about, because I thought it was like a box cutter thing.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, exactly. At that point too, like, why I had to rewind it because like I thought that I had missed something. Because I
did too.
I was like, wait a minute, he pulled out an X-Acto knife out of his pocket.
He did.
Then
I wrote down a question like, why does the douchey guy have a box cutter?
Because he cuts her pants.
Yeah,
that's what I thought. Is he a pickpocket? But were those pants or a skirt? Like it looked like he just cut it to be cutting it. Like he's just a vandal.
Yeah,
and
he
not
was
a
just
pickpocket.
Yeah, he was just being a d-bag, and that clearly was his whole thing was like, hey, you almost killed us with a toothpick in the pizza, and even the girl's like, I knew that was a bunch of crap, and he cuts her dress, which is like the most you already got your meal for free. Yeah. Why are you being a d-bag on top of that? You just got away with it. Why would you?
At first, I thought they were trying to say maybe he used that to cut a piece of wood off of the table and carve his own toothpick. I didn't know. And then when I saw her dress cut, I was wondering, like, is she going to be bleeding? But she wasn't. It was just
no. He was just
me,
like
this felt like a really contrived way to show that Taki could do some embroidery. Now.
Okay, so since we're all confused by this moment, let me take the opposite view.
5-year-old would do.
Even though I don't, even though I am as confused as you, I'm going to take the opposite opinion of it. Why are you guys acting so weird? Sometimes the wait staff is not letting you get your way with everything, and sometimes you have to cut their pants.
Yeah,
and why am I the weird one here?
Some people don't
it's
tip.
Cultural,
others
like in ancient Rome, you would belch if you enjoyed your meal. Well, in Japan, if you don't like the service, you cut the pants of your server.
Cut the pants of the server. Come on.
Before you go out to eat in Japan, make sure you take your pant cutter with you.
They won't tip you if you do a really good job, but they will cut your pants if you screw up. So,
which means that some guy has yelled at his wife before. No, not that box cutter, the good one.
Oh man. So let's see. They're more about the stick than the carrot. Isn't that what you're supposed to say in that situation?
More or less.
So the girl, though, that gets her pants cut open and he does a little needle point. This movie oversells. I'm going to say from personal experience, I have the opinion that this movie oversells how impressed hot girls are with needlepoint. What do you guys think?
Yeah. Oh, you did a little embroidery? Okay. I don't know. It just seems, but there's so many things that question within this movie and the logic of itself. And the funny part is that the characters themselves then bring it up of the erratic behavior of these characters for both of them. And it is also odd how they didn't figure it out even faster, because it's just like, I don't know.
And I think this is the point in the movie where we've gotten a pretty good look at like, what is Taki's experience in the girl's body? What's the girl's experience in Taki's body? And this is when I ask myself, and so I'm going to ask you guys to reflect on how you felt at this point in the movie. But who's getting the better end of the deal in this arrangement, in your opinion, guys?
In my opinion, I think that the boy is being transferred into the sticks, because he hasn't experienced that before, and that's really hard when you live in the city to get that kind of experience. So I'd say him.
I feel like he's getting the better end on both sides, because she's also making his life better.
Yes, also that. Yes,
that's
so
true. I didn't
like
think about that.
Dream a little dream.
You know, I if it weren't Grant Morrison, it's got to be somebody else, or not Grant Morrison, but Alan Moore. It's going to be
Corey Feldman.
Corey Feldman's going to make his way into the podcast one way or the other.
And then something that, I'm sorry, go ahead.
It was a half thought anyway. Go ahead.
Well, about 30 minutes into the movie, we kind of get what felt to me like a strange musical number, as if at first they thought they were making a TV show and this was the beginning of episode 2. Like, you know what I mean? How we got that strange musical number about 30 minutes in, and they kind of explain all the rules for their body swapping.
Yeah,
and then
there's a couple of fade outs and weird things that make it feel television-y, or at least episodic to a degree.
Yeah. But then we do see that they're using phone notes to communicate, and I thought that was like a nice mechanic. That was like a nice mechanism to use in the show. It made me think of, what was that, like The House at the Lake or whatever, where they could write letters to each other through that mailbox.
Oh, yeah. I know what you're talking about.
I mean, I'm not making that up. Like, there's a movie like that, right?
Yeah,
yes, there absolutely is.
Tom, what's his nose is in it.
Seen it. That's why
it's called The Lake House or something like that.
Yeah.
But you know, one of the things that I do like about this is that they didn't let technology be a hindrance to them. They used it for their advantage. And a lot of writers, it seems like, we've got to make it so that because usually a phone call just fixes everything generally in a movie or a TV show. And so usually what the writers have to do is the opposite way, which is that we have to make an excuse for why they're not calling each other. And so that was a great way to do this.
Yeah. And, the precocious little sister has another one of the best lines of the movie when she says, "You sure do like your own boobies."
Indeed.
And, my grandma always said, if you don't like your own boobies, how can you like anybody else's? So you got to start with yourself.
She was a smart one.
That's a wise lady.
Now, you guys ever give your granny a piggyback ride through the woods when you were kids?
My grandma was a hefty German gal, so no.
I thought that was the weirdest thing. I could not imagine being a high school kid and saying, "Here, granny, get on my back. I'll carry you the rest of the way."
Yes, my violent alcoholic grandmother. Hey, hop on.
Oh man, my granny, and I'm talking about my Kentucky granny, not my sweet West Virginia mamaw. But my Kentucky granny would have put some spurs on and started kicking if I wasn't going fast enough.
That's a great Neil Diamond song. Kentucky grandma.
Kentucky granny, put your spurs in my flank.
Uh-oh. I think that's where the show would be going.
I did like learning the meaning of the braided cords and why they were important in Shintoism, and I'm assuming that the movie's telling us something true here. I mean, I don't have any independent knowledge, but it was a beautiful kind of story that was being told as they showed the braiding going on, and another like nice 3D computer generated sequence.
Yeah, and again, I think that was one thing that I was never let down by with this movie is the visual aspect of it. That, I mean, there's complaints that I can lodge, and I'll lodge a couple, but visually, that is not one of the problems this movie has, because oh my, is it good looking no matter what they're doing. And like I said, it's a great modern day anime in as much as the food porn is just all like glistening and glowing, and there's so much attention to detail in just how food works and moves and stuff like that. Now, I'm always just so impressed by that.
Now, the shrine, we see Granny and the girls go up to the shrine, and we see the shrine is in a crater. And that's when, like, the crackpot theory part of my mind starts getting really tingly. It's like, this is the part where I'm feeling really pulled into the movie. And I think you guys felt like it wasn't quite there for you yet. But once I see it's in the crater and we open up with meteors falling, and I've already assumed that this Freaky Friday, Night of the Comet stuff going on here is meteor-fueled body swapping. But
Yeah,
then when
that's
we go
what
to
I figured as well.
Yeah.
But then we go to a shrine in the center of a crater, then obviously I know we're going like some kind of Donnie Darko territory here. Like this is going to be like, maybe this isn't even real Shintoism. This is some weird offshoot that only exists in this village because they're in that crater. So now I'm really starting to look deeper, and this is when the hooks got into me, was when they go to the shrine in the crater.
I do question Granny's commitment to sparkle motion.
I'm also not sure if this is really their granny or not either.
Yeah, that's another one. I was going to bring that up, where it was just like, is this actual Granny, or is this Granny, because they got Granny and Uncle and.
Well, we just watched My Neighbor Totoro, where they move into this town, this rural town, a single dad and two daughters with a sick mom, and he says, "Hey, this is Granny." Then fast forward however many years, and we get two slightly older sisters, and mom has died now, and Granny's kicked dad out of the house, and now they're her girls. So I'm seeing this as a sick, twisted sequel to My Neighbor Totoro, where the evil Granny has brainwashed the children and is using meteor magic to control the world.
How dare you?
Wow. Didn't see that one coming.
How dare you?
And I guarantee you no one else has probably ever had that take in this movie. A very widely watched and analyzed movie. I don't think anybody ever had that take.
First time.
But Granny does seem to have some insight. So I kind of wondered, like, at some point, if Granny might be an alien.
Listen,
So,
I was
guess
waiting for stuff to drop in this all the time. I was like, all right, when are we going to see like a tentacle sky monster or something like that? I was waiting for something crazy to happen. I'm not going to lie.
But
I do have to say that we can get to it later. They kind of hedge their bets when it comes to what she knows and doesn't know, right?
And I think now we should go ahead and here in the back 15, 20 minutes of the podcast, let people know we're going full on spoilers to cover through these notes here and make sure we get a good conversation going, because now I think it's time to go ahead and start talking about what we find out from here on out. And the guy gets obsessed with the girl, and the comet finally comes, and he decides to go on this big journey to meet her in person because the switches have ended. And that's when we start to understand that something has happened. Something's going on, that they're not able to switch anymore. And he goes on his journey to the crater and takes a couple of friends along. And we start to really discover the idea that this girl was already dead before they ever started swapping. And that is the real kind of unique, I think, part of this movie. Do you think it's fair to say that's a unique element for this movie?
It definitely took me by surprise, which was nice, because there is a slow pace to this movie that makes it hard to watch at times, even though it's a lovely movie. It's like Adam keeps saying, it is a feast for your eyes, but it's very slow moving. And so when you finally get to this moment, it's like, oh, wow, I definitely did not see that coming. That's amazing.
And it felt like at least another step into the progression of the story. And that sounds a lot worse than I really mean it to sound, but it is. We get rolling a little more.
There was a point when all the memories start fading, and then all the memos go out of the phone, and the movie does put us in a point where the story could have chosen to go that this was all a delusion, and that none of this had ever happened,
but
and this is a story about his own.
Too, one of the things that I really like about this movie is that kind of, and I think we've all had this at some point in our lives, where you look back and like think about relationships and stuff that you have, be it romantic or friendship, otherwise, where you go back and you just like, what was that person's name? You don't like, and it may be somebody that had like a very significant, portion of your life, and you don't remember their name for whatever reason. And I did like that kind of idea of memories fading and passing, and just not being able to reach out and grab that, that fleeting thing that's going away from your mind that you would, obviously want to hold on to if you could.
Yes. And that aspect is sort of, kind of a scary thing to a lot of people who've ever had dementia in their family,
Mhm.
because this is a real thing that I think a lot of folks as adults fear. I don't know that anybody really wants this to happen, but it's also one of those fears that are inside a lot of adults, myself included.
I mean, listen, it's recently just kind of come up in my family. My dad has been a pretty sharp guy his entire life, rounding 70 here, and there are moments where the cognitive stuff is not firing as much as it should be. I mean, they're getting him checked. Nothing's real bad or anything, and he's having fun joking about it and stuff about how I don't remember nothing. But it happens, and so like it's a scary thought that all of a sudden you wake up and it's just like, oh, I don't know what any of this is anymore.
And Taki is so dedicated to saving the life of this person with whom he swapped bodies across time and space that he takes the leap. And he also, in all fairness, wants to save the whole town because a piece of the meteor broke off. The name of the comet, by the way, was Tiamat, which is a nice Dungeons and Dragons tie, even though, yes, I know it's from Babylonian mythology first, but Tiamat the Destroyer. I love it. But he takes the step to drink the old Spitwater sake. Man, I had a tough time sticking with the movie once he drank the 3-year-old Spitwater. Sounds like, man, I don't know. Do you think that just because you swap bodies with somebody for a while, you'd be willing to drink 3-year-old Spitwater sake?
I don't know. I ate gum out of a girl's mouth that I liked once.
On purpose?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And trust me,
sake that's
trust me, it
3
went.
years old, though, man.
And the worst part was it went nowhere. Now
You're with me on this, right, Sean? That's gross.
It is gross. My question is, does he know what that is?
Yeah, because he made it. He was in her body at one point, right? Like remember he I don't know if he knows.
I think
now, the more I'm thinking about it,
that's her who's in her body when that happens.
You know what? You're right. I don't know. Like somehow he knew about the ritual though, and he knew that it was there. But I don't know how he knew. Maybe like when he was over there and the little sister was telling him about it and showing him how. I don't know.
That's like our Thanksgiving over there. You just don't understand.
The idea he knew what he was. I get the idea he knew what he was drinking, and I just couldn't do it, man. I just couldn't, and it was tough for me to stick with the movie as he unlocked his mind and we see the blastula formed, and then we get like a crash course in her whole life up until the meteor hit.
I thought it was really great, him just kind of that whole, now that I have this information and there's a time lock on it here and everything, and I've got to do whatever I can to help save, this area and the people and stuff that are in there, and especially obviously the girl that, I've had this interaction and experience and stuff with. I like that a whole bunch.
And it's like he gets, I don't know, it's like he gets one last body switch. And he's so emotional, he starts like crying and hugging Misu's body. But then when the little girl comes in, he's still never too emotional for a good boob squeeze. I like it that even in this moment where he's overwhelmed to know that he still has a chance to save her life, he's still going to go for one last.
No, so I think that is him waking up and going, "Is this real? I don't know what's going on," and that's the first thing that he sees. Well, listen, he's still got to be. I'm a girl now again. What's going on here, boobs? I just you got to check in.
It took an interesting turn that it really just didn't have enough time to explore fully. Because I mean, let's be honest, the movie didn't need to be longer. But we do find out that Granny also Freaky Friday'd in her youth.
Right, and she even says that it happens throughout her lineage.
Yes, and that kind of made me think of like a Teen Wolf moment, when Michael J. Fox finds out his dad is also a Teen Wolf.
When he opens that door and his dad is a wolf also.
Oh, I love it.
Such a great moment.
Gotta love
his
that
dad
movie.
looks like a chubby werewolf, man. It's funny how like unintimidating his dad looks as well.
He's still he looks like a cute puppy dog with his little flannel
the glasses
shirt
on.
And the glasses.
He's gray.
It's so amazing. I love it.
It's pretty amazing.
But then, with this new information, the girl who has cut her hair short, she gets her two friends and they come up with a plan to try to save everyone. And what do you guys think of this plan? Kind of like a high style plan they're coming up with.
Well, this was a good choice because for a movie where it's a lot of staring at your shoes, giving these people something to do and making the stakes this high, it kind of like hypercharges this movie.
There's some agency in the movie now.
Yes.
And it was really just kind of fun seeing them sit around what looked like some kind of locker room or something, coming up with their plan was just a fun moment. And then they go to what I'll call Deja Vu Crater. Because Deja Vu Crater is where like things keep happening. Like the timey-wimey stuff's all centered around this crater. Dad, the mayor dad, it was part of the plan, but he's clearly no help. So they're going to be on all of their own doing this. But this is when we get a little bit more backstory filled in, and we find out that she tried to join that wonderful date that she put together, which I just want to say that date looked absolutely fabulous. I mean, they got to enjoy good food and good art. Like, props to her for creating that date, but she tried to sort of spy on him, and she didn't know about the time displacement, but we get the explanation for how he managed to have her braid as his bracelet, which was something I was kind of curious or thought maybe I'd missed until it got explained.
Mm-hmm.
Was that did you guys like that component, or was that like just a bit too much?
I didn't follow it as much as I wish I would have.
It's more shoegazing to me. There's a whole lot of that, which it's the part that you're not really describing very well about this movie, is that there is so much ennui, and there's so much like
I can't pronounce that word very well. So
teenagers looking down at their shoes. There's a whole lot of that happening in this movie. There's a lot of like awkward shuffling that happens in this movie. It's like 40% of the movie.
You know what else happens though in this movie? We get a Brigadoon hour that lets them actually meet face to face. I mean, you guys are familiar with Brigadoon, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. So it's like we got a little mini Brigadoon at the magic hour as the sun's setting in the Deja Vu Crater. And they actually do get face to face where they're going to try to write each other's names in their palms. And wouldn't you know it, they each have a surprise for us. One writes something other than their name, and the other one Brigadoon's out of the scene before the name could be written. And then we get to see how quickly he starts forgetting her name, man. And that was kind of heartbreaking for me. I got to admit, kind of heartbreaking.
Yeah, to me, that was one of the, like, again, I love that. Just the representation of everything that's just kind of, leaving his mind and everything. And because it happens. That happens in life, man.
And like all the memory fading, and it'll continue to do this because this movie will span about 8 years, before it's all said and done. And it kind of reminds me of the way that like everybody forgets about what happened in Derry in Stephen King's It book and in the movie adaptations, or like you move away from Derry and you forget about the stuff that happened. The adults can't remember, only the kids do. It just kind of had that It feeling to me, how they're forgetting the name as they're out of this loop. Yeah. But, back in Amirito, or whatever the little village is called, the plan kicks into gear. And for a minute, it almost felt like some full on Goonies level kid action movie stuff. I was really having a little bit of fun with them until they started hitting some obstacles.
Yeah, that part is really great. I also like the way that they both feel like they're searching for something after everything goes down. Like that part is really cool too.
I love the idea of searching for something and you don't even know what it is.
Yeah, that's really neat.
I think it's understood. I mean, I understand their ages and things, why I love you is the message, and that it kind of becomes a love story. But I think it's more interesting if it's like it gets painted as more of just like an obsession. I just have to meet this person with whom I shared a life. It's not love. Like I could be married to someone else and my wife needs to understand that this is just a different thing. Like I would like something like that if they were older, but as kids, I get it. I love you is whether you're going to jump to at the age of 23 is probably about what they are at the end of this.
Well, there's way too much shoegazing for that to be what they do with this movie.
But they do show us the impact of the comet. Mm-hmm. And that comet goes off like a bomb. And it brings me back to something I used to say a lot on Anime Dad stuff, is essentially every anime eventually is about the atomic bomb being dropped. It feels like that so often. And that really feels like that here too. But is this Donnie Darko? Like, I don't remember Donnie Darko that well, but I remember stuff falling from the sky and a time loop or something going on. Yeah,
listen, Donnie Darko's overrated.
I I knew you were going to say that eventually about that movie.
But am I
You-
off the mark if I said that could have potentially had a little influence here?
There is a little bit of Donnie Darko in the DNA of this for sure.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff in the DNA of this, so it wouldn't surprise me that Donnie Darko would be there too.
I absolutely knew that Adam was going to say that Donnie Darko was overrated. I knew it. And the reason why I know it is because the people who like that movie are exactly the type of person that Adam can't stand.
This is true. But at the same time, too,
boy.
though, like I hate the director's cut. I think the director's cut is garbage. And I think that's the only way you can get it now, which is stupid. Because
Oh,
That's
really?
The
I
only
didn't
version
know
I've
that.
seen.
the music choices change. He adds like a time travel element in there that you really didn't
Yeah.
even notice in the first time because it's not there. It's not
Yeah.
bloody there. And he's like, oh, guess what? It's time travel and crap now. And then like it's just, I don't know. It's just, poor Richard Kelly and the career he's had. I cry for the guy a little bit.
And what's adult Taki trying to do? It sounds to me like he's trying to sell landscaping to businessmen in a building.
Yeah, he's like, listen, I know this is gonna sound nuts, okay?
But I want to
Look,
sell you landscape.
He's got one of those jobs that you get when you are younger. You know, like, oh, you know what? I just need a corporate job. I need an office job. And so you end up when you don't have like the drive to do the thing that you want to be doing, like he doesn't. You're going to end up with some weird job like selling landscaping. Like that's kind of
Yeah.
the way that goes.
But
you
sir,
know?
we're in an office building. Landscaping though, come on.
I have a friend that when we were in our 20s, I'm working in the industry at the cracker factory that I currently work in, and he had the weirdest jobs, and he's around the same age as these kids. We were around the same age as these kids. So like he's working at the Honey Baked Ham Company, and he's working at like a place where it's a kiosk in the mall, like selling keychains to people, but he got to say he was the manager, which is why he took it. And it's just stuff like that, that rang very true to me, that he would have this very strange job when he has no drive.
But they really leave you hanging for a while to know whether or not the kids saved the day. At least that's the way I've always interpreted this movie, is that you're on the hook for a little bit before you know if the day got saved or not.
Oh, you just told on yourself. How many times have you seen this movie?
Twice? Is that
I don't
okay?
believe you. I don't believe you've seen it twice.
How many times do you think I've seen it?
I am going to guess it's probably less than 5, but it's probably 4.
Yeah, you're probably right. But I mean, like sitting down and watching it start to finish twice.
Mhm.
But I've seen parts. I've seen enough parts of it, like you could put together 2 more whole watchings of it.
You and I know Bruce well enough to like, the man likes to pop in for a little ennui from time to time.
Yes, I need some ennui, which is why I couldn't say that word. You can't spell ennui without you and I, Sean.
Ooh.
Oh man, they're not all losers that I say.
That's going off the shirt.
But we do find out the hot girl's married, and then we have this staircase meeting at the end. And I really don't think we need to deal too long with like is she still alive? Will they ever meet again? Because yup, they have that moment. They walk past each other. They leave us thinking, oh, is this going to end? Such a bleak, bittersweet ending. But then they turn around and we get a great ending by saying the name of the movie.
And it wasn't like, I mean, that's why this movie could have been called like, Buckets of Blood. It would have been like, that would have been way different than what
What a
we
weird
got.
name to what a weird name to give your kid.
Well,
Buckets of Blood Fortress.
the Japanese title of this movie is Time Shifting Body Swap Meteor Adventure, but they trimmed it down for the U.S. market.
Happy
Oh,
time.
good.
You got to throw happy time in there, or happy hour anytime where it's just, there's always just like, we added a little element of fun in there. I don't know what you're all getting all bent out of shape for.
So beyond the ennui, did you feel any like sadness, or did you have any emotions watching it, or are you just like, oh, that's beautiful animation, good music, good story?
Yeah, this to me, the second part is more true, because I have no, I don't have the thing in me anymore where like you watch The Breakfast Club and you're like, man, those kids are really going through it right now.
I watch it and I feel bad for the guy that raided Barry Manilow's wardrobe.
That's what I'm talking about. That's where I'm at. That's exactly where I feel.
Like
and
the
so,
cool
like,
janitor's the only guy I like now.
When they start dancing that flick, I just get angry.
you know, Dwayne T. Robinson is the chief of police in LA. And now when Dwayne T. Robinson is in charge of the situation in the first Die Hard movie, I feel for him. When he's like, hey, listen, you just blew up like half of this building and my guys are covered in glass. He's worried about his men and Bruce Willis. He's on that walkie and he's just chastising him and yelling at him. That guy's doing the best he can. Yeah, he's a wang. Yeah, he's wrong. And yeah, he's also the same guy from The Breakfast Club. So he's typecast as the terrible person.
But if you were in his shoes,
I feel for him.
You know, if you were in his shoes, you'd probably be doing the exact same thing. He
Exactly.
believes everything he's doing is right and the right way to go about all of this.
Well, yeah, where's the Dwayne T. Robinson movie?
See, Kevin Smith, we can talk about things other than the Death Star sometimes. You know, they're just contractors, union guys trying to make buck. All right.
So to answer your question, I have this gave me literally no feels. But I love the visuals of it. I thought that twister in the middle is terrific. There's some interesting things about this movie, but you know, I mean, if I were an emo teenage Japanese girl, this would be my favorite movie.
Yeah,
but I'm none of those things. That's why I'm none of those things.
But yeah, I kind of got the same vibe while watching it. I was just like, oh, if I was like a teenager or something, like this might hit a lot harder. And and of the, you know, of the group here, I am the most emotional, touchy-feely. And and now, Bruce, you missed this in the pre-show, patreon.com/HMP. But the last couple of days have been just pretty garbage for me, so I've been in a pretty bad mood, and it did fall over to this movie as well. I didn't hate this movie, but I didn't. It was a bad time. It was just a bad time, but I'm not blaming the movie for that. That's more of a me thing. That's okay. Like I said on the pre-show, it will. This too shall pass. But I didn't love it, but I also did not hate it. I did think it was a beautiful looking movie. I thought some of the storytelling choices were odd in my book, but I mean, eventually, thank God, it came around and paid off for the most part for most of those things. Thank heavens. But while it was going on, I was just like, "What are we doing?" It felt like we were spinning wheels more than I wanted to. Again, didn't hate, but let's get into. But before we get to our final reviews here and everything, we have to ask ourselves one very important question: is how in the world this time traveling anime relates back 1-to-1 with Sylvester Stallone?
Why, thank you, Adam. I have a prepared statement.
Oh,
mushy, Mr. Stallone. This week's Stallone connection is someone we've spoken about before on this show. Her name is Michelle Ruff. She did time on the English dub of Hokkaido, which is something we watched last year during anime. And she worked with you during doing additional voices on the movie Ants, starring you, and a man that's named never makes anyone sad whenever he's mentioned, Woody Allen. Michelle Ruff has been doing voiceover work since the early 90s, and she mostly works on the English dubs of Japanese imports like Akira and Trigun and Mobile Suit Gundam. Basically, if you watched Toonami during the 90s, you're familiar with her work. I think over the next few weeks, you'll be hearing her name a lot because that's usually the way that these things go. So if you're listening, Mr. Stallone, maybe you set up a lunch with Michelle Ruff and wow her with all the knowledge you have about her, but in a cool way, not in a stalking way. She'll ask, how do you know so much about me? And that's the perfect opportunity to tell her about Hero Movie Podcast and how we keep bringing up her name. And she'll think it's weird that we keep bringing her up, but then you tell her about anime, and then an ironic black hole will open up over all our heads, and it will swallow us all whole. I would say more about this lady, but I'm pretty sure that if I burn all the info I have on her, future Sean will be very angry at past Sean for doing so. Just like now, Sean is very angry at past Sean for coming up with the idea of the Stallone connection while we're in the middle of anime.
This will be
And
easy.
there it is. Your Stallone connection this week is Michelle Ruff. I hope to hear from you soon. Your pal, Sweet Chauncey from the internet.
Thanks, Michelle. We really appreciate it. Well, here at Hero Movie Podcast, we have our own patented Robin rating system. Bruce, where does your name fall on the Robin rating system for you?
I think it's pretty solidly enjoyable. I think if you, you got a little, if you like something that takes a little Donnie Darko, mixes it with a little Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, throws in some Stephen King's It, gives you a dose of Brigadoon.
Those movies are all way better. I'm just saying.
Just a touch of
Every
boobs
single
roping
thing.
Freaky Friday. Yeah.
Even
You got it
Brigadoon.
all. You got it all here, man. So I'm giving this a Tim drink.
Yeah, and if you don't want to watch all of those good movies, just watch this one that takes all like tiny elements from all of them and crams them into an anime. Why not? Makes sense, Sean.
Like you said, Adam, I don't hate this movie. There's a lot of things about it to recommend it. The animation is beautiful. The performances are good. Even the English dub is the way I saw it, and they're good. They're good dubs. But man, this is a movie for teenage Japanese emo girls, and I am none of those things. So I am going to go low Damian Wayne on this. Like if you were a full grown ass man, you're probably not going to love this movie.
Yeah.
You're gonna if you're interested in art and
You'll be waiting for those tentacles from the sky to be coming down, and they don't happen.
Yeah, there's a lot to recommend it, but you're gonna be having a lot of phone time when you're watching it.
Yeah.
So let's just say I'm throwing a pool party for my kids to invite the friends over. Would it be better to play Your Name or A Silent Voice on the inflatable outside?
Just do Jaws. Do Jaws. You're in a pool.
Good point.
That's why pools were invented. Jaws. Do it. For me, we oddly enough, we talked about it on our text chain this week. This movie's getting a Carrie Kelly for me, which is essentially a Damian Wayne, but it's saying this movie's not necessarily for me, but I do see the value in it, and it's going to be something good for somebody. It's just that I'm not necessarily the audience for this, and that's fine.
Right.
But I respect you for being able to appreciate the art and some of the other things.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't hate it. I think it looks beautiful. I think it's I don't want to say a fully well told story because
I do have to say, Bruce, that
better.
none of us hate this movie. Unlike the thing that you gave us last year that I just vehemently could not stand. This is okay.
That was such a good movie, Sean.
No, it's really not.
So, there's all of that. But, that's it. A good, nice, wide range for it. And, so Your Name is available for purchase or rental pretty much wherever you go out there. So go check that out where you go. $4 worth, well spent enough for me. I wasn't like, shucks, I really
I wasn't
flushed
mad at
that
it
at
at
the
all.
toilet. It's good enough.
Yeah, it was a good experience.
So anime continues on yet again this week. The next week, rather, should be my week. But since it's kind of a short month and we've had so many other little things in there, it's going to be mine/yours if you're over at patreon.com/HMP. Again, let's go over those titles. We're talking about Attack on Titan, Spirited Away, The Iron Giant, The Silver Surfer cartoon from the 90s, and Osmosis Jones. You have your assignment. It's going to be a tough one. Go ahead and pick out your favorites there, and we will be covering that next week. Bruce will be taking a little break for a couple of weeks, but that's okay. We may have some guests in. I haven't got anybody lined up just yet. So if you want to send me your audition tapes, heromoviepodcast@gmail.com. I'm just saying if you're topless, it's not going to, hurt your chances. Marty, I'm talking to you.
Mr. Vandiver. Get topless and send in that video.
Don't do that. These are jokes. These are jokes. It's fun. As much fun as I'm making here.
The sincere pleading in your voice there.
I do want to say, I made fun of, you rip people on the internet, and then it was on Facebook. This was a couple years ago. I was ripped some dude, and then he messaged me through the thing, a pick, and I'm like, wait, what on earth made you decide that was the thing that needs to... People are strange. Patreon.com/HMP is where you go to vote for that. That is it, everybody. Join us next week for our Patreon vote for Sweet Sean's and Kovacs from the internet. The soon-to-be absent Bruce Leslie. I'm Adam Porcher. Stay super, everybody.
Bye, Marty and Evie.